Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we responded to a request from the forums to add options for the subscriber buffs reminder plugin. And today we're going to start by modifying subscriber buffs plugin so it does not do anything for session play. Since Windows is never going to be available for session play characters, it just doesn't make sense to have that pop up whenever you enter session play. And I was reminded of that when I went into session play last night, and I thought, oh, that's a mistake. Then, if we've got time, I'd like to look at my wardrobe. After the 32-bit to 64-bit server consolidation, my wardrobe capacity is gone. I'm way over. And I'd like to ponder about some programmatic ways to deal with that. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let's actually finish up what we were going to do with Little Redhead, which is this allegiance quest that I killed a troll too fast on and soft locked myself in the instance, or the server issues that were affecting people for a few minutes there affected me as well in some way. Either way, I wasn't able to progress within the instance, and we're going to come on over here and give it another go. I just exited out, dropped the quest, waited 5 minutes, picked it back up. So, All's Fair in chat says, "Hi, what if we have never used a plugin? Where should we go?" Great question. I will muse on that as we come on in. That feels like it's a little bit louder than I want it to be. Okay, so first of all, you do not need to use any plugins at all in Lord of the Rings Online to have a very fun experience. But plugins can add some nice quality of life things. So, thank you to Lyrian for doing the plugins command there. The first thing I would say is all plugins can be installed manually. You can just download the usually zip file, the archive file, extract the files and folders, put them in the right place, everything just works. But if you want, you can also use the LOTRO plugin compendium, which is a desktop application put together by community member Lunarwater. Looks like this. And we can see right now it says I have 2 plugins in my plugin directory. And one of them it doesn't know anything about. One of them is subscriber buffs reminder. And then I can add new plugins. Jaren's like, I remembered the command exists and I hit it on the first try. Yeah, it was well done. It seemed very authoritative. So all's fair. If you want something to manage it for you, you can download the LOTRO plugin compendium, and then let's say I would like to install the... Hang on. Oh man, I'm a minstrel and I don't have my minstrel buff plugin. That makes me sad. So, go to minstrel buff 2, check it, and click add. Okay, it's installed. If LOTRO is running, when your plugins change, you'll want to go into the System Plugin Manager, or you can type /Plugins Manager, and you click the little green arrow. It's not going to notice that you've added or removed a plugin until you click that, and then we can go ahead and load this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move this window to where I'm used to seeing it, and let's look at the options. Only visible in combat. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. I don't know if there's going to be any more combat in here. I know there's at least one troll that I need to wait to defeat until I have an objective. Oh no! Yeah, that's not as big as I'm used to. Okay, we're going to come down and just make that bigger. There we go. If you don't play a minstrel, then this is less helpful to you. Alright, so we're going to follow the footprints, checking out each footprint as we go. So, if you do want to do things more manually, then head on over to lotrointerface.com, where you can search for plugins. And if you go to downloads, it'll ask you which categories you're looking for, and then you can search from there. A lot of interesting things sit under the other category. That's where D Tracker is, for instance. one of mine that is for tracking deeds. So pretty much what it says on the tin. All right, confront the half-orcs. We're gonna wait for Merry and Pippin. Okay, so you can go over and let's say deed tracker, click the download button. You'll download an archive file, usually a zip file, but there are some other formats that are allowed. And then extract them, put them in the correct place. Most plugins will give explanations for how to do this. So to install, unzip the downloaded deed tracker archive. You'll get a folder called Cube Plugins. Move this into documents/LOTRORingsOnline/plugins. Or you can use Plugin Compendium. iQuasar LV says, is deed tracker somehow capable on auto-catching up uncompleted deeds? Hang on a sec. I gotta defeat a troll and then, defeat the enraged troll. I one-shot this thing before, maybe two-shot, and before I had the objective to defeat the enraged troll. Then the orcs ran away, and then, yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, we just saw this on Little Redhead stream, but time we headed back. Okay, great. Those are riddles. Riddles in the dark of Mordor. Okay, so iQuasar. Yes, the deed tracker is somehow capable on auto-catching up uncompleted deeds. Let's take a look at that. So first of all, I'm not going to install it manually. I'm going to go ahead and go to the LOTRO plugin compendium and go to deed tracker, and we'll install it via that. Okay, so it is installed. We're going to come on in to plugin manager, hit the refresh, and then load up deed tracker. Cool. So this is deed tracker, and as we see, starting off, because there is no API interface for us to ask the game, hey, what deeds are completed, we have to go a different route. And that different route is, if you also are willing to use the desktop application LOTRO Compendium, there we go. I've launched it on the other screen. LOTRO Compendium, LOTRO Plugin Compendium, LOTRO Companion. Oh well, it is the nature of things that namings will overlap. So this is the LOTRO Companion desktop application. And one of the things you can do is import your current status, for instance, deeds, from the game client. It's going to poke around, see which deeds I completed. It's in progress. Great, it's done. Okay. You can do so much more with LOTRO Companion, but that is the important thing right there. We're then going to go into the Documents Lord of the Rings Online folder. And in there, we're going to go into Plugins, Cube Plugins, and Deed Tracker. And within this folder, there's going to be a file called Import Deed Completion from LOTRO Companion. Neat. We're going to go ahead and run that. It's going to say, here's what we found, blah, blah, blah. And so specifically, we found Peregrine Affodil, and we're going to go ahead and import. And import is complete. Great. So what that means is the next time that Deed Tracker is loaded, we're going to get that information as well. I'll go ahead and do it right now. Deed Tracker. I've loaded it, and it says, hey, completed deeds detected by LOTRO Companion, 1,997. We'll go ahead and import those. Great, and we can see 987 due to reasons are shown up here, and that looks much better. And I'm going to go ahead and say turn off hide completed deeds. Awesome. So that gives us a much tidier looking interface. All of that is documented over at deedtracker.lifebeyondtheshire.com, which I'll pop a link there into chat for your convenience. But the import deed completion from LOTRO Companion page specifically. There you go. And it just goes through with a much older version of LOTRO Companion, the same steps that we just did. Okay. If for somehow you manually checked a deed complete that LOTRO Companion doesn't think you got complete, you'll see that as well on the import. So that's just something. All right, well, great question on Quasar. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions on that, feel free to pop those into chat. But we're going to go move on to the next thing while we are dealing with this. Oh, should complete this quest.
We have earned something for our troubles. I will say that much.
Okay.
You won't find me going back there.
Okay, and then I need to choose a ring, not the might, not the might, not the agility, not the agility. So either critical rating or outgoing healing. I know which one I want. Okay, great. And All's Fair says, yes, I'm working on downloading some stuff now. Thank you. Awesome. Well, yeah, if you have any questions about installing plugins or getting them loaded up, feel free to pop those in the chat. You can ask questions about specific plugins by all means, but there are many of them that I just don't have any experience with, so I may not be able to be helpful, but other people in chat have a broader experience than I do, so feel free to ask and maybe someone will know the answer. Okay, so subscriber buffs reminder. This is a tool that you can specify how long in advance you would like to know that it's time to talk to Wenda. And then it will do that. Whenever the plugin loads, that's the only thing it does. It checks to see, are we within X number of time from your subscriber buffs from expiring, and then it pops up, it's time to talk to Wenda. Now, if you are not a subscriber of Lord of the Rings Online, if you're just free to play, then this is not helpful for you. This is only, this is the thing that is available for subscribers. It's called the subscriber buffs, or subscriber town services, I should say. And it allows you to do a couple very nice quality of life things. These are not game-breaking things by any means, but they are very nice. Being able to do a quick repair on the go would be even nicer if it didn't also come with a your stuff doesn't break buff. Just a moment. Also, incredibly convenient on-the-go access to vaults, shared storage, wardrobe, auction house, and legendary item forge once you have your legendary items. So, this is very handy, but specifically what this subscriber buffs is looking for is the effect on you called subscriber buffs. And this is, makes your crafting time faster and prevents item wear from combat, crafting, and defeat. And a lot of us, when we did a transfer from 32-bit to 64-bit servers, we received a town services item whose expiration date is considerably longer than is usual. It normally lasts for 14 days, but due to, I suspect, because time is so annoying when you're a programmer, I suspect different clock dates? I don't know. It does not make sense to me why this is, but this button lasts for 42 months instead of 14 days. So this button is effectively permanent. Now, it's not actually permanent. Obviously, I may very well be playing this game in 4 years, in which case this will be gone. But for the next 3 years, I never need to replace this. And every 14 days, this subscriber buffs is going to fall off, and I'm going to be sad if I don't remember to replace it. Hence, it is time to talk to Wenda. Trillion things, probably the expiration date depends on the runtime of the original server. I think that makes a lot of sense. Instead of using a Unix epoch, if they just used the uptime of the server, and you would never notice it unless you're transferring from one server to another. And a lot of effects just are not, a lot of expiring things expire so fast that it wouldn't come up very often during server transfer. But this thing, lasting for 14 days, gives you a very large window in which to do the transfer and still have it be there on both ends. Yeah, absolutely. And this number is different on different servers that I transferred to, which would, and different servers that I transferred from, which would definitely back up that it was a server-specific value that is being recalculated into a new time period now. Whatever it is, it's great. It is time to talk to Wenda is just to offset the fact that this will, practically speaking, never expire. I just have to make sure I never drag it out of my inventory and destroy it by accident. But the subscriber buffs will. Delirium says, my transfer is from Guay here, which was installed at free-to-play launch lasts about 4 years shorter than my transfers from Belgium, which was present at launch. Okay. That's some good experimental evidence there. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this so that if you go into a session play, the plugin just stops trying to load itself at all. We can either develop this from scratch, or we can borrow what we do from some other plugin. But we can just develop from scratch. It's usually pretty easy. So let's go on into our code here. I'm going to go ahead and close a few windows until they are needed. Yeah. That Hobbit tune is catchy. Okay, what we want to do is come on into main.lua and say, if this is loaded during session play, don't do anything. Yeah, Tilian says Treebuild and Laurelin. I think that they were your servers should also be different. I actually transferred from a variety of servers. I had some coming from Crick Hollow. I had some coming from Landerval and Laurelin. I think by then I maybe had transferred everyone off of Brandywine, but I might have actually had someone left on Brandywine. And so, yeah, I have a variety of different expiration times on these little baubles. And I tried to make sure all of them had re-upped before the transfer, just to make sure that they could have their perma vaults. Okay, so how do we do this? Logic. Check name, first character of name of character. If it is tilde, it is session play. So, easy enough to do. Function is session play. Return false. If is session play, oops, then return. And we're doing this at the root level of the file. So what we're saying is stop processing the rest of the file. Oh, interesting. Telerian says, by the way, the mug will also not expire when you transfer in the 6-hour window. I didn't think about that because I'm so used to just tossing the mug. I never thought about trying to transfer with it. And that was probably a mistake on my part because now I do need to talk to Winda to get the mug instead of just drinking from the mug. But I gotta say, I don't know if I would actually be pleased with it taking up a spot in my inventory all the time instead of just going every 2 weeks or more to re-get the quest. Because it's an expiring item, so you can't put it into your vault or your shared storage, your personal vault. So it has to sit in your inventory. And yes, I've got whatever, the max number of spots in my inventory, but to give up one of them for something that I'll only use every 2 weeks. I could see that on the lesser played characters, but my main, I don't know. Then says, just for future reference, could you implement a town services and inventory option to the subscriber buff reminder? I think what you are saying is, could we check for the existence of this thing and warn if you are missing that as well? And it's not impossible. The two use cases I was thinking of is normally without the perma item, this thing expires after 2 weeks. So unless you accidentally throw it away, it'll just sit in your inventory. And this buff expires in slightly less time normally, and lots less time in this situation where you transferred with the inventory item, but not with the jug or with this. So I guess what use case are you thinking of? Because I feel like anything that would catch this would be caught by this unless you've thrown it away. So yeah, I'm curious where you're coming from there. So what we can do is we can go ahead and say turbine.shell.writeline before check, and we're going to go ahead and do a after check. Yeah, Tellurian, it's on the same. It's almost on the same time frame. If you are on a normal system, the buff expires an hour or two before the inventory item, which seems very strange to me. But it means that if you have the inventory item, you can actually have that and then not have your fast crafting or your item invulnerability because the effect has worn off. Like you'll only have 2 hours left on the inventory item, and the effect has just worn off. So there's that narrow window. So I find the effect is a better measure of how long it is, except for you can't get rid of the effect voluntarily, but you can get rid of the inventory item. So if you threw that away, yeah, this will not catch that particular issue. And it could. You are absolutely correct that we could check your inventory for something named this, and if we don't find it, we could pop up the same, it is time to talk to Window. So let's go ahead and track that idea. All right, we're going to go over to GitHub. Wrong repo, though. Repositories, subscriber buffs reminder. Great. So we're going to come in here to issues, make a new issue, check for inventory item 2. On startup, also check for the inventory item, whatever it's called, subscriber town services. And if it is missing or has the same remaining time problem, question mark. And I don't know if we can actually check that. Can we see that, question mark? Then also, this also causes the reminder to pop up. Cool. Yeah, Tellurian says, I was thinking of the non-semi-permanent town services and people just playing once per week who are used to doing the quest each week, but for some reason they did the quest, had 2 town services, tossed the wrong one, so the buff lost a week. Yeah, okay. I could see that. Now, just keep in mind, the subscriber buffs reminder will only ping when you load the plugin. We're not checking, we're not staying like in memory, except for the sense that we can't unload the plugin after we're done. Otherwise, we'd be completely gone. And so if it has, if it's in your inventory and it has a day and an hour left when you come on and we're able to see that expiration, we're going to be like, hey, it's good. And then 2 hours later, we're not going to recheck or anything. But that's why the default for this is 1 day, because my theory is that you're probably going to log off and back on at some point in that 24 hours, and then the plugin can rerun then. If you are online and play for 24 hours straight, then you're probably a more sophisticated player who doesn't need this reminder anyway. So I'll leave that in your hands if you're that kind of player. Or you just set it for 2 days, or 3 days, or 6 days. Okay, so what I wanted to do was check out. Julian says, and I would love a Fateful Toolkit reminder included in the plugin. I assume you're looking for, do you have it equipped? That's actually not bad, and I could make use of that myself. I don't know if it's appropriate in this, because this is really just meant to be a very single issue thing. But we could definitely sneak it in here and then split it off into a different plugin. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. New issue. Fateful Toolkit reminder. Maybe. Redblood says, forgetting to move Fateful Toolkit to shared storage before switching characters is such a pain. Now, one thing that I've found that was very helpful was the tweak to use Windows 8 compatibility on the LOTRO executable. and that dramatically decreased how long it took to switch between characters, especially my completionist characters that had a lot of completed quests or deeds. And so if you haven't played around with that, that has made it much less painful for me to do that bouncing back and forth between one and the other. So let me pull that up real fast, just in case you're not familiar. LOTRO client, great. Okay, so if you are looking at the lotroclient.exe, and you've just gone into program files x86, Standing Stone Games, Lord of the Rings Online, and you have lotroclient.exe. And then you come into the compatibility tab, and you can click Run this program in compatibility mode for Windows 8 and apply. Or if you use a shortcut to launch it, you can do this through the shortcut instead. And I found that significantly decreased how much time it took to switch characters or just to exit the game. The amount of time the background process stuck around after the UI went away. Both of those seem to be much better under the Windows 8 compatibility. Bitbit says, I think inventory plugins like Alt Inventory can also slow things down. It's absolutely true that every plugin that needs to load and process when you start things up can have an effect on switching. But in my experience, the delay of the client itself far outweighed that of any individual plugin. One way you can test this is just move all your plugins and plugin data away, put it somewhere else, like your documents, downloads, whatever. Do a switching between two different characters, time how long that takes, and then put all your plugins back. You'll need to exit LOTRO, put it back, and then come back in so it sees all that. And then do some switching back and forth between characters. And just do some basic timing with a stopwatch. You don't need super accuracy, like down to the second is fine. And you'll be able to see how long on average do all the plugins add. And for me, it's between 5 and 10 seconds for my characters that use a bunch of plugins. So it's like D-Tracker and Titan Bar and Alt Inventory and Mini Raid and Minstrel Buff and these other ones as well. So your mileage may vary. Obviously, if your hardware is a little bit older or slower, maybe you'll feel that a little bit more. There's also a launcher for plugins. Is it one launcher? No, the one in game that will let you load plugins after the fact more quickly. Maybe someone in chat remembers it. Anyway, there's a way to basically say, don't load any of these plugins when I'm logging into the character, and then have a plugin load them all later. Like, if you're bipping back and forth just for ingredient crates, you don't need them. But if you're actually going to play, you hit the button, Bootstrap, thank you, Talarian. And then they all come in. So the Bootstrap plugin manager is a way to say which of these are going to go, and then I think you might be able to load them all with one button press when you are ready to do that. So you just set up which ones to go, or you can load them one at a time, and is my understanding of how it works. Correct me if I'm wrong there in chat. But then that means, if you're bipping back and forth to do ingredient crates or maybe a little bit of crafting on characters, but you're not going to play with all of the stuff, and then you wait to load those heavier, dudier things like Altolic or Titan Bar or whatever you think is slowing you down a little bit. D-Tracker. And I'm actually going to play? Okay, press the button and then load them. And that means the login part itself is separate from the plugin loading. Jillian says, and I tweaked my version so it will load one at a time, not all at the same time, and not when you're in combat. Those sound like great tweaks. Like, maybe toss those back at Quindle there. I know you can do patches. Oh, no, they're marked as no patching. You can fix. You can find a fix here. Cool. Okay, so this might not be the right plugin for this, but maybe add an option to also warn during that the character does not have Fateful Toolkit equipped. Okay. Bam. So we're gonna note that that would be an interesting thing. Obviously, the subscriber buffs reminder plugin might not be the best place for it. I could see sneaking it in there. Now, Tellurian asked, would it be possible to check that unplug and unload? So technically, yes. But the answer is, what could it do about it? And the answer is not a lot, because everything is coming down. Like, the building is being demolished. So could we pop up a window? Yes, but then the window would disappear because the building is being demolished. We could put something out into the standard chat channel. Hey, you still got your thing. But if your plugins are being unloaded because you're logging out, it's already too late. So, yeah, we could put something out into a chat channel and maybe it would catch your eye. Oh, good. Tellurian says Bootstrap also lets you set a startup button to launch plugins for specific purposes, like Festival Buddy 2, Roving Threads plugin, etc. Nice. Okay. So what I wanted to do is make sure this logic is working. So we're going to come on in and take a look at that. So we're going to unload and load. We see before check and after check. Now I'm going to return true from is session play. And what we should see is before check, but we shouldn't see after check. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And that's because if you return from the file itself during processing, then that acts as a way to short circuit the processing of that file. And so that's something that's very handy in, for instance, we're going to make a new window and we're open recent dtracker. In dtracker, you might notice that in the data files, at the very top of each of these huge files, and this is, let's see, this is a 1.5 meg file in English, slightly bigger in German and French, and a lot bigger in Russian, 2 megs in Russian. So this is a 1.5 meg file. And so the very first thing we do is check the language, and if it's not the language we're expecting, we just exit. And so that doesn't save us the effort of loading the file necessarily. It depends how it's doing it. Maybe it's a memory mapped file. But it does mean that we don't need to process this 4,500 entry table into memory. We just skip it. I hope. I hope Lua is smart enough to do that. But we can definitely see it skipping the processing of the rest of this file. So that's why I assume that it is doing that. Okay, so what we just need is to actually have logic here. We're going to put that back to false right now. Okay, so we need to get the name of the character. Let's take a look at that. Do we already have a character? No. Okay. A local player get instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to hoist local player up. And we're going to move the logic into the function just for clarity. Great. So let's come on into the API documentation and take a look at local player. And we want the name. Get name? Great, there's a function called get name. Let's do it. So local name equals local player get name. Actually, I have a debug function, don't I? Name. Great. So we just want to see what name did we get. Name, Affadil. Great. We're going to pretend, for debugging's sake, that name is actually tilde concatenated with player name, because that'll let us test the rest of this. because I don't want to go do a session play. That's annoying. So we can see that the name that is detected is tilde affidel. And in fact, function get player name, no, character name, local name equals get character name, and we have a single place for that. So local name equals, we're going to get rid of that tilde for a minute, return name, and then debug. And we're just going to say name equals tilde concatenated with name, done. Okay, so we can still see unload, reload, name is tilde affidel. Great, we must be. Steady Eddie has some kind words in chat. Well, welcome back to the stream. Okay, All's Fair says, noob alert. I put buff bars in my LOTRO plugins folder, but I don't see a setup or extract option. If anyone has any tips. Cool, let's take a look. So first of all, we want to make sure that it is set up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and install it over on my side. I actually use Buff Monitor myself. I almost never use buff bars, so I'm a bit of a noob with it myself. So just so you're prepared for that. So buff bars, we're going to go ahead and add it in. And what we want to do is we want to see, is my folder structure and your folder structure looking the same? So we're going to come into plugins, and usually what you expect, or what you should come to expect with Lord of the Rings Online, is that there's usually a top-level folder, often with the plugin author's name, and we could see here that buff bars is by Pengoros, and there's a Pengoros plugins folder here. So that's what you should be seeing over in your Lord of the Rings Online plugins folder, is Pengoros plugins. And then inside of there, you're going to see buff bars, UI, utils. Awesome. Next thing, you'll want to make sure you come into the game and hit this green arrow so that this list is refreshed, and you should see buff bars and then whatever version you installed, I assume 2.1.1. Okay, Elsewhere says the green arrow isn't showing up. Now, it's possible, if this is the very first time that you've installed plugins, that you might want to go ahead and exit out of the client and then come back in, because on launch, if it didn't see the plugins folder at all, that might have put it into a I don't have plugins frame of mind. But before you do that, if it is already before you do that, you can use the chat command / plugins space, I think it's refresh. Yes. So you can kind of force it, just in case the green arrow, for whatever reason, clicking it's not doing it right. You can do, / plugins space refresh. That does the same thing as the arrow, the green arrow. But sometimes just exiting out and coming back in can be the right thing to do, especially if you're starting brand new, never had plugins. Something you can do while you're out of the game is to make a plugin data directory, all one word, capital P, capital D. The plugins will expect it to be there, but I'm not sure LOTRO necessarily creates it on its own. Plugins are supported by LOTRO, but they're not necessarily encouraged by LOTRO. So, while the game is exited, maybe go ahead and make your plugin singular plugin data directory. There's something going with my nose. I'm going to blame it on autumn. All right, All's Fair says they have a plugin data directory already. Awesome. Just wanted to double check that. So once you're back in, and once you're logged into a character, we'll come back into this and see, does anything show up in this list? Okay, so what we want is to remember how to index strings in Lua. which I don't. Lua index character in string. I'm just doing a quick little search. And we're going to come on over to luausers.org. That's a pretty reliable place. Why not? All right. Not in Lua. You have to write the sub function. Okay, let's take a look at that. So, is session play. So, local first car equals name sub. This starts in I and continues until J. All right, I'm going to assume it's a one-base thing. And we're just going to put out that first character. A gamer says, hello, hello, and welcome. We are remembering how to program in Lua. Okay, so that was in fact it, the sub function. Starting at the first character and going until the first character has given us a tilde. And notice that I embedded those double quotes in the output, and I find that very useful because I have been bitten too many times by, let's say it was this somehow. There we go. Let's say I did not have those quotes. So, first character. Great, the first character is a tilde. Everything's working. But, subtly, there's a white space at the end of that. There's a space after the tilde. And you can't see it unless you remember to surround the thing in question with some sort of characters. I tend to use double quotes just because it's very traditional for me as a way of doing this, and we're already using double quotes. But you do then have to remember to escape the double quotes. So you might find it easier to do something like a pipe. Pipes are great. They're underutilized in this day and age, I think. And we can see then, oh, wait, that pipe isn't against the character. Oh, wait, we're getting two characters out of this. So, oh, two was wrong. It's not inclusive, it's exclusive, or vice versa. So, that action needs to be one. We come back in here and we load. And all of that stems from the fact that we had some sort of a starting and stopping character that we could identify. And like I said, I use double quotes just because it's what works for me. But the choice is pretty arbitrary. You just need something that tells you, I have confidence that the white space isn't getting in here in a way that I didn't otherwise detect. Now, you could still have a non-printing space character, like in there's UTF-8 ways to mess this up. But if you're just talking a basic first 128 characters kind of a deal, then this catches a lot of problems, tabs and spaces and whatnot. So I definitely recommend just get in the habit of quoting your debug output that's like, what's the value of this thing? Just because it can save you so much effort. Anyway, so we have a first character there. We know it's a tilde. Great. So what we want to do is if first char equals a tilde, then return true, else return false. Now, this is a classic pattern that we are overwriting here. I'm doing it intentionally. This is a way to really annoy a certain class of senior developer when you can just return first char equals tilde. This is what you can write. And that's fine. For a simple check like this, you can definitely do it. I would actually do it one way different. I would say local is session play equals this. And I would go ahead and give that thing a name, and then I would return it. So return is session play. But you don't need to spell out your if this is true, then return true, else return false. You don't need to do that. You can just capture the result of that check and return that. But the reason why this is so appealing to me anyway, even though I know that, is so often, if there are two things now, someday there's going to be three things. And this is where Booleans really fall down as a concept, because you've got your true, you've got your false. Inevitably, in any sufficiently complicated system, there will be a third option. And Booleans don't support that. Booleans are true or false. and if you have maybe you have a nullable bool, so true, false, or null, not found, kind of thing. And there's a classic daily WTF post, which is an enumeration which is true, false, and file not found, because their function needed to return a third thing, and that was it. And so, is session play, that is currently only true or false, and I don't think it's ever going to change. But in the real world, if you're writing commercial software and you have a function that is checking for a status, very often you will eventually have a third or a fourth or a fifth thing getting returned from that function. And so, yeah, this kind of logic is great for those Boolean functions. It starts to fall down really fast if you start having to decide amongst more than that. So just keep that in mind. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and capture it as a variable, the concept, first character equals tilde, okay, it's session play, and we'll return it from this is session play. Now, all of this is over-engineered in the sense that for this plugin, we do not need all of this, right? We could just say if local player get name sub11 equals tilde, then return end, right? Like, yes. That's the first thing I want to say is this is sufficient to get the job done. What it isn't is very discoverable. So if you're trying to remember what it does from 6 months from now, or if another person is coming into your plugin and is looking at this line, you could hit it with this comment, and they would probably understand. But the reason why I'm bothering to spell it all out like this is I feel like I'm going to have a much easier time understanding, oh, we're checking is session play, cool. We're checking the first character, and if the first character is a tilde, then it's session play. So I can discover something about how Lord of the Rings Online works reading this code, I feel like a little bit easier. So we're going to go ahead and unload and load, cool. And then we're going to go ahead and get rid of that debug, unload and load. It works. Awesome. Telerian in chat says, getting back to the unload function, is it a I am on my way out function? Would it be possible to let the screen go red and write a file this character did not return the fateful toolkit? Feel free to push the question back until you have more time. It is definitely a we are on the way out. My understanding of it, and this is very testable, so if anyone does test this and finds out something different, I'd love to hear it. But my conception of it is your unload function is called, and when that unload function returns, your apartment is torn down. So you could create a window and show it, but when the rest of that code finishes and when that function returns, it gets unloaded. It's entirely possible they have some safety checks on the on the client side of things, the executable side of things, that says if they tell you to unload and you don't exit out of that function within n milliseconds, then they end it anyway. I haven't done any testing, and it would be interesting to do that, but there's not a lot of good ways to kind of stall out. Like, if there's a sleep function, I'm not sure, actually. Let's take a look. Lua, sleep. Yeah, we have a busy wait. I'm not seeing a built-in thing for sleeping. So other than just like spinning your gears a lot, all that to say, a good plugin won't do that. A good plugin will do whatever it needs to do and will exit out. So you can write save files, absolutely. And a conceptual thing that I think would be very interesting is actually to write out a server-wide file that says player X has the Fateful Toolkit, and then whenever you log into a different character, you could have a plugin that pops up and says, oops, the Fateful Toolkit was last seen on Affodil. And so that at least tells you where to start, right? Like, if you could, I could see that. So let me make a note of that idea. Also, when unloading, write out if this character has the Fateful Toolkit, write out its location into a server-wide location. When loading, check this file. If it has something, if it was placed into shared storage, clear the file. When loading, check the file. Has something, show it. The Fateful Toolkit is still on Affodil. Or Fateful Toolkit is still in Affodil's inventory. Plain says, just tried to spell out that idea when you explained it. Okay. So yeah, I think that could be interesting, is if you just have a Fateful Toolkit plugin, that's its only job, is to keep an eye on where the Fateful Toolkit is. If it goes into shared storage, it just wipes out the file that says it's not in shared storage. And then if you bring it out of shared storage, then basically anytime you do something with it, you put it in your inventory, we write out to that file. You equip it, we write out to that file. And you unequip it, we write out to the file, whether you put it into inventory or shared storage. And that way, we don't have to worry about doing anything in the unload. It's just whenever we saw it move, we write it out, and then we're pretty likely to have pretty up-to-date information. We're client crash proof that way, or at least resilient. And then when we load that plugin on a different character, we see that that file, and if it has something in it, then by definition, it's not in shared storage. But we can also look for it in shared storage just as a side effect. So if we don't see it in shared storage, and we don't see it on this character, then we can go into that file and be like, oh, this is where it probably is. And as long as everything's working correctly and we don't have any weird client crashes or characters who aren't, like this should be a used by all kind of a plugin. So this should be a used by all kind of a situation. Otherwise, just like with carry-alls, you could have things that aren't tracked and then the accounting goes off. So, okay. We're going to go ahead and instead of relying on saving during the unload, we can update the file each time we see the toolkit move. Maybe start a 5-second timer and issue the save. Then, to avoid the problem of equipping from shared storage, passing through inventory and triggering a double save. Okay, so good ideas for this, but I'm increasingly thinking this should be its own plugin. Although it seems a shame to make a whole other plugin just for this, so I don't know. I could see it being both. Anyway, so we're building up an idea of what that would look like. Okay, so yes, I am fully aware that if I were doing code golf, I could knock this out in a single line. But notice how much harder it would be to test this. Like, where do I inject a tilde so I can test whether this works or not without actually having to go into session play? Harder to do. I guess I could do a tilde dot dot that equals. Wait, no, that doesn't work. So I gotta do this where tilde dot dot get name and then do a sub on that. Like it feels harder and less obvious of what you would undo to get it back. Whereas here I can just comment this, uncomment this, super easy. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it split up like this, acknowledging that yes, of course, I could code golf it into a single line if I wanted to, but that's not as maintainable, it's not as testable, and I personally feel like it's not as readable, although your mileage will definitely vary. That's a very subjective thing. Tillian says you could do session plays in Rivendell or Sanson's farm. Great point. Chicken play is definitely one of my favorite types of session play to do. Rivendell. What's the session play in Rivendell? I don't remember. Is it one of the replay things? Like at the reflecting pool? So I'm going to go ahead and delete the code golf version, and then we're just going to do and check for session play. Okay. Now, that is a good point. Sanson Farm is calling me, so we're going to go ahead and go to... Hey, little one. What's up? Yeah. You want to lie down in your bed? No? Okay. You just came for the pets. Okay. We're going to go over to Sanson's Farm just as a fun way of testing this for realsy instead of just with the debug code. You're back. Hey. One of these days, we're going to get you comfortable with being picked up. And it's probably because your legs will have fallen off. Yeah?
What can I do for you?
Hey. You want to lie down under there? No? Okay. It's almost cold enough for she'll start camping on her bed again. But we're still definitely in autumn, not winter. Hey, little one. Yeah, I got your tail. This is not a one-handed navigation part of the game. You silly cat. What such plays may be repeated at the tower in German? Tower of Gathering. Yes. Okay, I know the one you're talking about. It is the Spire of Meeting in English. Okay, so we can see if we load this and unload, we get It's Time to Talk to Wenda. Great. Free range. We could do the other two. Waiting to enter session play. Hey, you are being a pest. You are being a pest. I mean, in a good way. I appreciate you wanting pets, just like any other time. Okay. Okay, so we can see deed tracker is up. But we can see that we didn't get a notice for Wenda, even though we don't have it. So it is working in situ. Now we do have 8 hours remaining in our free range. Yes, Elsewhere has reacted with a cat wearing sunglasses. I don't know if Kato would like sunglasses. Hey, you coming up? You can lie down here if you want. Okay. Don't rub on my water glass. That's just tragedy waiting to happen. I know. Yes. Rub on the desk. I really wish these deeds were transferable to your main character, but you can complete Avendim Traveler and Chicken Session Play over and over, and you'll never get credit for it in your other character, your actual character. Alright. Log out. I wonder if that was the right thing to do. It was not. Oh well. Okay, so we have great. So we have it's time to talk to Wenda. Great, it is indeed time to talk to Wenda. Only because I've marked it down to 6 days or fewer for the notification. So everything is working as expected. Awesome. Let's go look at our source control and maybe save some changes. So we can see our previous box because we were doing -1 instead of 1. Added comment for. We'll just go ahead and save that off. Cool. So we have. What's up with that? Yeah, don't need to commit that yet. So these are the changes we've made today. Let's see if they all make sense. I think so. So we hoisted up the local player declaration above to here, because we're going to use it to get the name. We call, if it is session play, then return. Let's go ahead and comment out what we're doing here. Stop processing the rest of this file. Okay, so we call it is session play. Is session play gets the name, checks the first character, and it is session play if the first character is tilde. And then get character name. And do I need that to be in its own function? I feel like that is excessive. So we're going to go ahead and nip that function. So is session play name equals local player get name, first character equals the name sub. Awesome. Let's just double check that that all works. It's time to talk to Wenda. Awesome. And then, yeah, all that looks great. Tyrion says, perhaps a message like, chicken have no need for such a buff. I like it. I think I could easily go overboard on customizing that for all sorts of different session plays, and that could be its own thing. So I'm gonna say, for my own sanity, I won't do that. But I like where you're going. Added check for session play. Cool. We're gonna go ahead and take all of that and push it out. And what that means is we can come in here and take the commit SHA and then say fixed in that, close with comment. Great. So, so it says, okay, did not think about the others. Yeah, I've gone off the rails for deed tracker because every instance that you go into, usually there's some little text at the beginning that kind of sets the tone or what's going on. And you could use that to uniquely identify where you are. And the reason that's important for deed tracker is that if you are in one of the caves in the troll shaws and you kill a troll, it counts for your troll shaw slayer deed. But you're not in the troll shaws, you're in an instance. And so if you complete a deed with the same name in multiple regions, like Warg Slayer, for instance, and you are in an instance in the troll shaws, we should be able to just say, well, you're in the troll shaws. But without doing that mapping between a uniquely described instance in the text in the chat, without doing that mapping to say, okay, this is an instance that's within the troll shaws, so any region-specific deed is completed in the troll shaws automatically. But then you need that chunk of text at the beginning. You need all of those, and there's thousands of these things. And it snowballs real fast. And it's like, there's a handful of quests for which that would improve the low-level experience. But by the time you hit level 100, the problem goes away. Yeah, Tilian says, most of all instances will print something underlined in the chat. Absolutely, and that's what you can do. That underlined thing, you can look for text that is underlined and say, okay, this is the description, where am I? And you are correct that not all of them have it, but the majority of them do. So you can do the majority of instances. You can do a correlation to be like, where in landscape am I? But someone has to map that, or you have to programmatically figure out, okay, what regions are these in? Oh, Gamer has some kind words for plugin authors in general. Well, thank you very much. Anyway, all that being said, I started down that road and I looked at it and said, oh, that's a lot of work, and I abandoned the thought. And it makes me a little sad because I think there's something there, but it's a lot of data, it's a lot of memory for what feels like a very small benefit. So instead, when we just don't know, we just ask the user and hopefully they understand what's being asked and they answer correctly. Okay. Whoops. So this is done. So going back to issues, we just had the Fateful Toolkit one. Wait a second. That should be closed. Well, what did I do? Well, that's weird. Ha! I was in the wrong one. Alright, let's try that again. Don't load during session play. Okay, great. Tolerian says, plugin reaction. Oh, there's underlined text. Just tell me, where are we? And then the player will post underlined text. I feel like I don't want to annoy the users of the plugin, but yeah, it's a thought. Actually, I keep having thoughts of making a quest tracker, and for that, I would probably need to run through as many quests as I can as fast as possible as a sanity check to make sure ordering looks good and make sure I didn't miss anything and everything looks fine. And so, very tempting to just grab a level 1 minstrel, use the 150 Valor that I just got with the newest expansion, and then just start at the beginning and obviously breeze through all of the quests because you're 150 and it's level 3, but demonstrate that the plugin has got everything it needs to. Now, without a robust testing framework, just like DTracker has, if something's wrong, then, well, the quest is completed, so, but, for something like that, it would be possible to go ahead and collect those things from those places that matter, sort of on the go, like as a part of that, collect that. Okay, pop it into DTracker. Collect that. DTracker. Oh, this means this area. So Trollshaws, Lonelands, North Downs, all those places. Yeah, totally, and exactly. Reproducibility is difficult with something like that because once you've completed a thing, uh, it's done. So unless you're looking at something like festivals where you can complete the same thing a day in and day out, which makes the quick guides very, very doable. But a guide for the quests in the main part of the game, not so flexible. Okay. Check for inventory item 2. You know what? We could do that. Okay. So we need something called subscriber town services, and we need it in multiple languages. So what we want is we have something called subscriber town services. Great. Where'd it go? And that is this object ID. So what we want to do is do a search for that, and that will give us the name of it in multiple languages. So let's go ahead and come back to the code and come on into strings. So the buff name is that inventory item name equals, and we're going to go ahead and set this up. So English equals this, French equals this, German equals this, and Russian equals this. And then we're going to go ahead and grab the values from the data files. So subscriber city services. Fair enough. All right, subscriber town services. And again, I highly recommend copy pasting instead of trying to type it. It's very easy to hit the wrong type of apostrophe, to do the wrong type of space, especially for French. Much easier just to copy, and really from double quote to double quote would do me well, just in case there's a weird space at the end, which has definitely happened. And then we'll get the Russian as well. Okay, so we have the name of the thing in each of the languages. Awesome. So now we need to learn how to look at our inventory. So let's do that. Okay, so check for subscriber buffs. I feel like I want to do that in, let's see. So we only get here. First, check for the effect. Well, we get here, what's the use case? We don't have the item, but we somehow have the effect. So we tossed the item. Okay, so we have the effect. If we have the effect, then we go into handle subscriber buffs. If we don't have the effect, we're going to go in with nil, and that's fine. That will show the window. So, at this point, the window won't be shown because of the effect. Check for the inventory item just in case the player threw it away accidentally. So, how do we look at the inventory? Don't know. I almost never do it. Let's find out. So we're going to go into the documentation. And this is just a local cached version I have of one that's available over on, I think, LOTROinterface.com. And that way I don't have to worry about if LOTROinterface.com is down or not. And it usually is not, but every once in a while they have to do maintenance or whatnot. Okay, so turbine.gameplay is where I'd expect to go. Let's look at the local player, and we can see get equipment, not relevant, so we need inventory. That's not doing it, although we definitely see items. Let's see. Get backpack? How about get backpack? Gets the player's backpack. Sure. That returns a backpack type. Awesome. And there we have get size and gets an item. We can also perform item shortcut drop and item drop. I don't think that matters. Fascinating. Okay, not going to worry about that. So what we want to do is local backpack equals local player get backpack. And we're going to say for I equals 1 to backpack get size do and local item equals backpack get item of I. And then what can we do with an item? I have no idea. What is it? It's an item. Awesome. We can get its name. All right, so local name equals item get name. And then we're just going to throw that into chat so I can see what we're doing. So found item in backpack. We're again surrounded with quotes. It just makes it easier. And let's see what happens. So we're going to unload. We're going to reload. Awesome. We actually didn't get to this code. Let's pull this code out somewhere. So function check for subscriber town services. And I am going to go ahead and just do a debug, and debug. Great. Okay, so didn't work. Let's find out why. 64. Attempt to index the local item a nil value. Interesting. So let's see how big our backpack is. It's possible that what we're really doing is iterating through each of these spots in it, and there may or may not be something in there. I was picturing it was just going to be a list of what's in there. So debug, looking at a backpack of size. Yeah. So let's take a look at that. Oh yeah, size 135. Awesome. So what we're seeing is that attempt to index a local item a nil value. So what we really want to do is if item, then we're going to do that. Else, we'll go ahead and debug nothing in spot I. I really have to stop hitting the page down button instead of the end button. Okay, so perfect. So we can actually see that we're spewing out a bunch of information. Nothing in spot 8, 9, 10, found item in backpack, barley and herb mash. Awesome. And I'm guessing if I sorted the backpack, this would get a lot cleaner here. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and sort, unload, reload. And I'm wrong. It's still very weird. I assume that this is kind of like a hash table and that item number 1 isn't necessarily this spot here. and that's fine. We just have to be prepared for a nil. So let's go ahead and get rid of the else and only look at where things are. Great. So we're going to go ahead and just include the spot that was found in. I'm just curious. All right, so we found subscriber town services at 7. Okay, so if item, then what we need is the name of the thing that we're looking for. If item and item get name equals lang dot something, enter item name, that client language. So then found item. So close. Attempt to concatenate name. Yeah, I did do that. Okay, there we go. So, found item in spot 7, subscriber town services. So we did find it. Now, big question, can we tell how long it has left? Get item info. All right, so that returns an item info. Get probably not. I mean, I'm kind of curious. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of that. So, local item info equals item get item info, and then debug item info dot. And I was curious about the description. Get description. I don't think that'll be helpful, but let's see. Just the part in grayish down at the bottom. Okay. What else? Durability? Yeah, sure. Durability is 7. Not surprising. It doesn't have any. Kind of entity, max dex has name with quantity, quality, image IDs, is magic, is unique. I think what that basically is telling us is no, we can't see how long it has left. So its presence or absence is all we care about here. So local found I think we're going to change this. Does backpack contain subscriber town services? So item, if that, then return true, return false. So what we want to do is call this. So if not, does back to that, contain that, then end. So we're going to go ahead and show the window and return. Awesome. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this back to a 1-day notice, and we can see we didn't find it. But how do we test this? Well, I could throw it away, but I don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and say subscriber time services exclamation point. Very exciting. And load this, and we can see it's time to talk to Windows. So we didn't find that item in our inventory, so we popped up the UI. And if we do find the item in our inventory, we don't. Very cool. Okay. And again, we'll see that should work in French, German, and Russian because we have that text. So as long as we properly detect the client language, not sure we're doing that with Russian right now, but the framework is there. Okay, so at this point, the window won't be shown because of the effect. Check for inventory item just in case the player threw it away accidentally. We can't see the expiration time, so just checking for presence or absence. And I think I'll put that up here. Returns true or false. Returns whether we have the subscriber town services inventory item. We can't see expiration time, so just checking for presence or absence. Returns Boolean. Yep. Oh. Florian says slot IDs are indeed scrambled due to the sort feature. Thorlord did a descrambler back in 2017. Awesome. Well, I'm very happy that I don't have to care about it right now. And in fact, during my normal play, I use prime bags, so I almost never see this particular view of my inventory, and that's fine. Okay. So, does this contain returns whether we have it? Yeah. True if present, false if absent. I think you need to have like a separator there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that looks fine. So, yeah, I'm definitely not throwing that away because that's my perma one. Do one more double checking, and then I believe that is a done feature. Okay, so we are checking. If you don't have it in your inventory, we will just bring up the exact same window, not telling you which you're missing because you're going to get both of them. Julian says slot IDs and what they correspond to shouldn't matter in 99% of the cases, but for sequence bars, it might be needed. And that is also one of his. Fair enough. I have tried sequence bars a little bit, but it never really came together as something that was helpful for my gameplay, so I stopped playing around with it. I think mostly I was playing around with it when I was trying to power my way through like Guardian class deeds, where I wanted to hit all these skills over and over and over. But I wasn't necessarily playing the Guardian with those skills most of the time, and so it was just against a dummy or something. So that's fine. Okay, so this is yeah, keep on not doing that. Okay. Added check for inventory item. So we're going to put that in. Okay, we're going to put that in, and we got that. Add check for inventory item. Great. Push that out, and now we'll go ahead and come back to the list of issues. Fixed in that. So we're going to close that. Okay. Great. Fateful Toolkit reminder. What would that look like? Yeah. Yeah, so this is a bummer, Tillian, because on the one hand, I really want this. I want this to exist, and I would use it a lot. And I just don't know if this is the right plugin for it to live in. So I think I'm going to, if I do it in subscriber buff reminder, I'm going to try to write it in such a way that could be easily pulled out and put into its own plugin or something. So that that's possible. So it's not really bound up here. But hey, we have half of what we need, half of the knowledge we need to tell what's going on with the Fateful Toolkit. Okay, well, I was thinking about looking at wardrobe, but, you know, we've only got about half an hour left in the regular stream time, so I think I will play around with this idea instead, just because I too would find it very useful to have a reminder that you left your Fateful Toolkit. I've been bouncing around with a couple different sets of alts in Mordor because I'm trying to get to the point where I can run allegiance um, quests on my non-completionist characters to feed those reputation items to my completionist characters. Hey, Allsberg, we got buff bars working. Awesome. Was it as simple as exiting and coming back in, or was there something else that you needed to do to see the plugin in your plugin list? I'm curious. Okay, so Fateful Toolkit. The first thing we want to do is grab the strings for the Fateful Toolkit. So, Fateful Toolkit equals. You had to download it with Compendium. Okay. Yeah, I found way back when I was first getting into Lord of the Rings Online, I found the plugin system intimidating because I never felt like I was confident in where I was putting the folders or files, and it just didn't feel like it was clicking for me. And with enough repetition, it comes along. And with enough plugins already installed, installing the next one gets a little bit easier because everything's already fine. And the LOTRO plugin compendium smoothed the way a lot as well. And so I tried to make it clear in my plugin instructions of how to install this manually, but I totally get it. Like, I found it confusing when I was first starting, like, you want what, where now? And I didn't have the tools and techniques to diagnose the problems the way I do now. So, all right. iQuasar says, question, does LOTRO Companion work in Linux for that deed tracker trick? Oh, and Allsfair says there's a Nazgul on Angmar. So if you're playing on Angmar, or have a character there that can log in, there's a Nazgul. iQuasar, what I have heard, I have not tried to do this on Linux myself, but what I've heard is that you need to be running, what is it? So you need to be running LOTRO Companion and LOTRO in a way that LOTRO Companion can see the memory of LOTRO. It needs to poke in there to get all the information that it's grabbing. So if you are using a VM or something, they both need to be running in the same VM. If you're using, what's the name of the Common Linux tool for running these things? It's not Parallels, that's Mac. I'm sorry. I'm behind. I haven't looked at this in a while, but however you are emulating LOTRO to be running, you need to have a way for LOTRO Companion to be running in that same system so that it can see the memory of LOTRO. And I think people have gotten this working on Linux and Mac, definitely Linux, but I don't know. But LOTRO Companion does have a Discord server, and steps other people have been successful running at are in the archives of that Discord server. Yeah, Delirium points out there's a pinned message in the support channel of LOTRO Companion's Discord. So I would recommend you pop in there. I believe there's a link to it in the help of LOTRO Companion. I'm going to pull that up here just to double check. So help, about, and Discord. So just pop on that. If you're a Discord user, it should be pretty easy to find. If you're not a Discord user, I too found Discord a little intimidating when I was first getting into it. But if you're coming from a history of forum systems, old BBSs, that kind of thing, this is a modern take on that system in my way of thinking about it. So that may help you kind of have a mental model of Discord. But click on that, get in there, and if you do not find where the pin messages are, just ask and someone can point you to them. But usually there's a little pin icon at the top of the server, and you can see pin messages there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get those translations of the Fateful Toolkit there. Now, Fateful Toolkit is the better version of the tool, but there's also the pocket items of flowing silver or something. So I want to take a moment to go to the wiki for that. Flowing silver stone. There we go. So the floating silver stone only goes up to level 100 through Western Gondor, which is a nice effect. But if you have the Fateful Toolkit, that's the better option. And so a proper plugin, like a full-featured plugin, would probably want to pay attention to all of these things. Wow, I'm just on automatic there. So we're gonna starting with just Fateful Toolkit. Could add options to expand to flowing silver stone. And there's another one, flowing silver stone of the tortoise. Yep. And I'm going to document them here in the code so I can more easily find these things later without having to pull it out of my brain. So the flowing silver stone and the flowing silver stone of the tortoise also give that plus 10% wallet barter items. This one just does it without giving you any XP, which, is not bad. If you're going to have a stone of the tortoise, this is a better way to have a stone of the tortoise, all else being equal. I think my flowing stone of the tortoise is actually over on Mariotic instead of Peregrine here, or Mary and Perry as I call them. So I'm not going to worry about testing that anyway. But yeah, I could see wanting to have options of, okay, if you don't have this but you do have this, that's okay, or whatever. But we're going to start with this. So Fateful Toolkit, we need to come into here and Fateful Toolkit, do a little search. So we can see that the item ID is here. So we're going to search for that and take these as the German. And again, try to copy the quotes as well, just in case there's weird white space. The French. And the Russian. Great. So we have those. So a separate system. We need to know where the Fateful Toolkit is. And so this feels like a two-parter. First, look in all the places that can be that we know about when we load the plugin. And then second, ask to be told if it moves around after that. So we need to check inventory, that's backpack, check equipment, and register for changes to either. And that would be a starting point. So we need a function. Check for Fateful Toolkit. And we want to call this when we log in. So, probably. And we can actually borrow some of the code that we just wrote. You know what? I am going to get rid of that white space now that I'm thinking about it. White space change. Yep. Okay. Neat. So, we have some backpack manipulation code. So let's start with that. And let's fix this. Is Fateful toolkit in backpack. So we need this to be Fateful toolkit. So we're going to go ahead and look for each item in the backpack, and if it's there, true, otherwise false. Okay, function is Fateful toolkit equipped. Now, how do we tell if it's equipped? Let's find out. Let's go take a look at... Oh, I just closed the wrong window. We saw that our local player had a get equipment. So, local equipment equals local player get equipment. Awesome. Then what? This is an equipment. So this is get item index. Do we know if all the indexes are always the same? They probably are. And so equipment slot is that. So where is the Fateful toolkit installed? That is the toolkit, probably. Tool, craft tool, great. So local equipment, local item equals equipment get item of turbine dot gameplay dot equipment slot. Interesting. Where is that? What are you? Turbine dot gameplay equipment slot. An equipment slot button for equipping items. So that's totally different than what I wanted. Okay. Craft tool. There we go. What are you? Awesome. You're just equipment. Well, cool. Equipment dot craft tool. Now this is actually just number 19, and that's totally fine. Where is equipment? That feels like it should be somewhere. Turbine. All right. Turbine dot equipment. Gameplay dot equipment. Yep, there we go. Okay. So this is either going to be something or it's going to be nothing. So if item and item get name equals what we're looking for, then return true and return false. So we've gotten very close to that old pattern of if X, return true, else return false. So let's consider just saying local is Fateful toolkit equipped equals that. Return is Fateful toolkit. Cool. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Debug toolkit in inventory, and we'll go ahead and dump out the results of is Fateful toolkit in backpack, and then toolkit equipped. We'll dump out is it equipped. Okay, let's see that. And this is just going to happen when we load up the plugin. Toolkit in inventory false. Toolkit equipped true. Okay, unload, load. Toolkit in inventory true. Toolkit equipped is nil. Interesting. Other one. You want to touch? Okay. Okay. Distracting cat is distracting. Okay. So we're getting nil back from that. I'm not super happy about that. But why is it nil? Toolkit equipped equals nil. Or false? Okay. I don't know if that's necessary, but I do think if I'm going to treat it like it's a binary, true or false, then I need to coerce it to be true and false. If I just am okay with it being truthy, then that's unnecessary. Yeah, I don't know. We can come back to it later. Okay, so we now know both of these things. What we don't know is when does it change? So, equipment. Item equipped, item unequipped. Item fired when the item is equipped. Great. So, we need this in the equipment thing. So, function register for equipment changes. And that's going to be local equipment equals local player get equipment. And that's going to be equipment dot item equipped equals function sender args, and that's it. Yep, sender arg. And we can see what thing we're expecting that to be. Which we should expect index and item. Okay. If args.index equals turbine.gameplay.equipment.craft then end. So we only care about it if it is a craft tool. And same thing, equipment.item unequipped equals function sender args. Same thing. So, it would be helpful if we had just had a helper function for is item. What are we calling these things? Faithful toolkit is. %10 token bonus. I want a short function name so that it makes more sense to use this than to do this item get name equals this long thing. Is match. And possible bonus item. Possible bonus wallet barter token bonus item, right? That's the problem. And then this. Local is match equals that. Possibly a wallet barter token bonus item like Fateful Toolkit. True if it is, false if not. Checks if item is a wallet, barter, token, bonus. Currently, only supports Fateful Toolkit. Okay. And we don't need capitalization on those. Okay. So, is match item. Okay, so we want to debug equipped Fateful Toolkit, and we want to have the same thing here where we unequipped it. Let's find out more. Okay, so if I go ahead and equip it, nothing happened, and unequip it, nothing happened. Great. So don't actually know where the problem was though, because we didn't actually debug where we were. So equipment item equipped. And we're going to dump out args. And we're going to do the same thing for unequipped, because I have a feeling these are being called, just my code was wrong. So let's go ahead and equip this. Okay, my code was not called. Interesting. So I have misunderstood how to tell if equipment is happening. Now, one thing we could do is not use the local variable, just in case that's playing around. So, nope, didn't matter. Do not throw away your Fateful Toolkit. Okay, so what am I missing? What's wrong? What's up? I didn't call this function. Noob. Great. Okay, so we have equipped the Fateful Toolkit, and we've unequipped the Fateful Toolkit. And we know we can test this because we have an enduring toolkit. So let's go ahead and equip that. We are in the item equipped, but it didn't match. We're in the item unequipped, but it didn't match. And what if we swap the two? We can see equipped Fateful Toolkit. So let's go ahead and kill off those debugs there, because we are seeing this working. And we can see unequipped Fateful Toolkit, equipped Fateful Toolkit. Now, what happens if we're coming from shared storage? Well, we can see unequipped happened. And can we equip from there? It seems like maybe not. Okay. That's funny. I had in my head that you could equip from shared storage, but that appears to be incorrect. Okay. So, we know if it's been equipped. We know if it's been unequipped. We don't know if it's been unequipped if it went into shared storage or personal storage or inventory. So that would be a thing to track next. But we are rapidly coming up here on the end of the stream. So I think I'm going to make a few notes here in code about where we could go forward, and then we'll be at the end. So now's a great time to get any last minute questions, comments, concerns that you might have into chat. Otherwise, let's revisit them next week. So we have the register for still to do. Register for inventory, backpack changes. if the toolkit is unequipped, figure out where it went. Backpack, vault, shared storage. Do each of these have callbacks for when something changes? Wow, I need this to stop prompting me for typing suggestions. I need to figure out what the right setting is for this, because it shouldn't be like that's fine, but if I'm typing this, no. Quick suggestions? Preferences, settings, text editor. Okay. Suggestions. Oh, it's right there. Great. I mean, I don't necessarily mind it in the editor. Okay, that's fine. So that was in settings text editor, and that was the controls whether to automatically show inline suggestions in the editor, apparently. So, hooray, that was driving me nuts. Okay, if the toolkit is, do each of these have a callback for when something changes, question mark? Basic, we need to track equipped in backpack in vault. If it's none of these, if it was one of these and now isn't one of these, clear the server file. If it is one of these, set the server file accordingly. Something like character equals affodil, tool equals fateful toolkit, but not but some ID that's not language dependent, and then location so location equals backpack. vault or equipped. Okay, so that's what the save file would look like. And actually, I think it would actually be more like this. Tool, no, Fateful Toolkit equals, and then all of this would go under that. So that's going to be Affodil Backpack. Because, again, keeping in mind, we could have up to 3 of these effects right now, and we can get more of them later, perhaps, as SSG thinks of other fun quality of life things that aren't game breaking but are very lovely to have that might have this effect on them. Maybe a fun hat. I don't know. So, for the Fateful Toolkit, and let's go ahead and say 1 block for each of the currently 3 items. And then something like this, if item is missing, and then, or this if is not in shared storage, or this if it is. Okay, so that is location equal shared storage. Maybe something like that. Because if it is in shared storage, maybe that's useful information, although we should always be able to determine it. Though shared storage isn't available to plugins until you load it in-game for the first time. So if you want the plugin to know as soon as it comes up where it is, you do have to tell it. So saving it off as Fateful Toolkit is in shared storage, awesome. Obviously, this is not a very good... This implies it's English text, and I think shared storage is a better value. Backpack or vault or equipped. I think that conveys a little bit better that these are special values. They're not meant to be translated or human readable strings necessarily. They just happen to be human readable. Okay, so I think that gives us an idea of where we want to go for a save file. This is again going to be at the server level, not the character or the account, just across the server. So you could theoretically have these 3 things on 3 different servers and the plugin would still be potentially useful. I could definitely see options being like, which of these 3 do you have on this server? But that feels a little moot. That it feels just for like setup. Eventually the plugin would see it. If it's being loaded for all characters, it would see it, it would record it, it would know where it is. So... And then it would be nice to have a way to ask the plugin, where are my things? Maybe populate the options dialog with where we currently think each tool is. Now, I'm already rethinking the server aspect of it because it could be useful to have an account file. Maybe also make an account level file that records which server the tool is on. Shows where we think the current server is. Yeah. That way we can automatically answer the question. I know I have the flowing silver stuff. Where is it? Right, so we might have the option show things on this server, and then you do have these other things, they're on this other server. Now, knowing what the name of the current server is actually non-trivial. You either have to ask the user, or you have to pay attention to /LOC messages, which is a whole other thing. But assuming we can answer that question, which we usually can, when you first load the plugin, we can be like, hey, click this button to tell us where you are. That's a pretty solved problem at this point. So these are all things to do, and this is a long list of things I would love to do, which makes me think it should probably be its own plugin. Instead of trying to slide into subscriber buffs reminder, just make a Faithful Toolkit. I feel like is too small of a name. And what was I calling it? Wallet barter token bonus item tracker helper something. Feels like a ridiculous name, but wallet barter token bonus item tracker. That seems silly. Okay, I don't know. Naming things is hard. This is a literal description of what we're talking about, but that's a hard sell. Fortunately, I don't have to decide that now. Tool, says Talarian. Catchy. I mean, the problem is that it's not all tools. The flowing silver ones are pocket items. They're not even a crafting tool. They still give the bonus. And as far as I know, the bonus doesn't stack, but I've never had them on the same server to check. Problem. Flowing silver items aren't tools. They're pocket items. Well, like I said, that's a problem for a future date, but it is a problem that will need to be solved sooner rather than later. Delirium either suggests Wabatoboit or is having a stroke. Wabatoboit. We'll revisit that later. Okay, well, bonus hunter. Anything with the word I like where you're going with that, but the word hunter, I feel like would throw people off. If I see hunter, I think, oh, it's not for me. I'm a minstrel, and yeah, I don't know. Bonus hunter, bonus seeker. I've written them down for inspiration for later. Okay. Well, I appreciate your thoughts. I've got to look at something else for a little while. Maybe that will help. Go for a run or something. Okay. Well, that being said, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right. Bye-bye now.